Hey guys, tonight we step into a quiet medieval house, the kind that looks simple, maybe even peaceful from the outside. The sun has already disappeared, the sky fading into darkness, and you're finally ready to rest after a long, exhausting day. But as you step inside and prepare to lie down, something feels off almost immediately. The air is colder than you expected, the space darker than you're used to, and as you settle in, a small thought creeps in. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to comment your location and local time. I always love seeing where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lower yourself slowly, trying to get comfortable in a space that doesn't seem designed for comfort at all. The floor beneath you is uneven, firm, and slightly cold. There's no soft mattress waiting, no cushion to sink into. Instead, you're guided toward a simple arrangement, something that resembles a bed, but only just. A mainstream historical fact is that most medieval homes, especially for peasants, did not have proper beds as we know them today. Instead, people often slept on straw-filled sacks or piles laid directly on wooden frames or the ground. You feel that reality immediately. As you sit down, the surface shifts beneath you. Not in a supportive way, but in a loose, uneven way. It rustles softly, the sound of dry straw pressing and bending under your weight. You adjust slightly, then again, but nothing quite feels right. The shape doesn't match your body. The support isn't there. It's just a place to lie down. You take a slow breath, the air around you feeling heavier now that you're still. There's a faint trace of something lingering, smoke maybe, or the remains of the day's activity. You try to ignore it. Instead, you focus on settling in. You lie back, and immediately you feel it. The uneven pressure beneath you. Certain points dig slightly into your back, your shoulders, your legs. It's not painful, but it's far from comfortable. A quirky historical tidbit is that straw bedding often had to be replaced frequently because it could collect moisture, dirt, and small pests over time, something not everyone could afford to do regularly. You don't think about that too much, at least not yet. You shift again, trying to find a better position, maybe on your side, maybe slightly curled. Each adjustment helps for a moment, then the discomfort returns. Historians still argue whether medieval people experienced sleep differently due to these conditions, or whether their expectations of comfort were simply shaped by what was available to them. You can feel that question in your own body, because this doesn't feel like rest. It feels like an attempt at rest. You pull whatever covering you have closer, the rough material brushing against your skin. It offers a small layer of warmth, but not enough to fully relax into. You take another breath, slower this time. The house around you is quiet, but not silent. There's a faint creak somewhere above, a distant movement. Maybe someone else shifting in their own space. Maybe just the structure settling. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and immediately your body becomes more aware of the surface beneath you, of the air around you, of every small discomfort that was easier to ignore while you were moving. Now, there's nothing to distract you, only stillness and sensation. You adjust your arms slightly, trying to relieve some pressure. It helps briefly, then fades. You shift your legs, same result. You realize something quietly. There's no perfect position here, only slightly better ones. You take a slow breath, your chest rising and falling gently, and for a moment you almost relax. Almost. But then something shifts again. A small sound, a faint rustle. You open your eyes slightly, looking into the dim space around you. Nothing moves, nothing obvious at least. You close your eyes again, trying once more, because this is what you have. This is where you sleep. And as you lie there, your body slowly settling not into comfort, but into acceptance. You begin to understand something important. Sleep here isn't guaranteed, it's earned. And even then it doesn't come easily. You shift again, not because you want to, but because your body quietly insists. The surface beneath you hasn't changed. It still presses unevenly into your back, your shoulders, your hips, small points of discomfort that slowly make themselves known the longer you stay still. You try lying on your other side. For a moment it feels better. Then something sharp presses lightly into your ribs. You adjust, again and again. A mainstream historical fact is that straw bedding, often called a pallet or simple mattress, was one of the most common sleeping arrangements for medieval peasants. These were usually sacks stuffed with straw, hay, or sometimes dried leaves materials, chosen for availability, not comfort. You can feel exactly why. The straw shifts beneath you with every movement, but it never settles in a way that supports your body. It moves, but it doesn't adapt. It simply rearranges the discomfort. You press your hand down slightly, testing the surface. The straw crunches faintly, dry and uneven, some pieces thicker than others. You can feel where it gathers in clumps, leaving other areas thinner, almost flat. There's no balance, no consistency. A quirky historical tidbit is that wealthier households sometimes used feather-stuffed mattresses for added comfort, but even those required regular maintenance to prevent clumping and decay, something far beyond the reach of most people. You imagine that for a moment. A softer surface, something that actually supports you, but the thought fades quickly, because that's not where you are. You pull your covering a little closer, tucking it around your shoulders. It helps with the cold, just slightly, but it doesn't change what's beneath you. You close your eyes again, trying to relax, trying to let your body sink into whatever rest it can find. But instead of sinking, you hover, every part of you aware of something. Pressure, unevenness, contact. Historians still argue whether medieval bedding provided enough comfort for long-term rest, or if people simply became accustomed to poor sleeping conditions over time. Some suggest adaptation, others suggest constant fatigue. You can feel that uncertainty now, because this doesn't feel like something you'd ever truly get used to. You bend your knees slightly, curling your body into a position that feels manageable, not comfortable, but acceptable. Your breathing slows, your eyes remain closed. For a moment, everything is still. Then, a faint shift beneath you. Not the straw this time. Something smaller, subtle. You freeze for just a second. Then you move slightly, just enough to test it. The sensation disappears. Maybe it was nothing, just the straw settling again. You take another breath, trying not to focus on it, because focusing makes everything feel sharper, more noticeable. You shift your arm again, placing it in a different position. The straw adjusts. A few pieces press upward slightly. You feel them through the thin layer beneath you. You try to ignore it, because there's no real alternative. You can't replace it. You can't improve it. You can only endure it. You open your eyes briefly, staring into the dim space above you. The ceiling is barely visible, just faint outlines in the darkness. Then you close them again, trying once more. Your body settles again, slowly, cautiously, like it's negotiating with the surface, trying to find some kind of agreement, some position where the discomfort becomes quiet enough to ignore, and eventually it does. Not fully, but enough. You take a slow breath, then another. Your muscles begin to loosen slightly, not because they're fully relaxed, but because they're tired. Tired enough to stop resisting. And as that happens, you begin to drift just a little closer to sleep. Not deeply, not peacefully, but closer. And that's when you realize something important. This bed isn't meant to comfort you. It's meant to hold you. Just enough, and nothing more. You don't change before lying down. Not really. You simply lie down. The same clothes you've worn all day, the rough fabric, the weight of it, the stiffness in certain places, stay exactly where they are. A mainstream historical fact is that most medieval people slept in the same garments they wore during the day, especially peasants who owned very few sets of clothing. You feel that immediately, because the moment your body begins to settle, the clothing doesn't relax with you. It stays firm, present, restricting in small, constant ways. You shift slightly, your sleeve tightening across your arm. The fabric doesn't stretch, it pulls. You adjust your position, trying to loosen it. It helps. For a moment. Then the feeling returns. The material presses against your skin in places you didn't notice before: your shoulders, your waist, your legs. Not painful, but never fully comfortable. A quirky historical tidbit is that linen undergarments were sometimes worn for sleeping when available, but many people lacked enough clothing to separate day wear from night wear, especially among the lower classes. You glance down briefly, even in the dim light, noticing how the fabric folds around you. It looks worn, used, shaped by repetition, just like everything else here. You pull your arm closer to your body, trying a different position. The cloth bunches slightly at your elbow. You shift again. Now it tightens at your shoulder. There's no perfect position, just trade-offs. Historians still argue whether sleeping in clothes offered practical warmth and protection, or if it significantly reduced comfort and quality of rest over time. You can feel both sides, because yes, it keeps some of the cold away, but it also traps the day with you. The dust, the sweat, the stiffness, all of it remains. You take a slow breath, your chest rising gently. The fabric moves with it, but not smoothly. It drags slightly, resists, reminds you it's there, always there. You close your eyes again, trying to focus on stillness instead of sensation, but now that you're aware of it, it's hard to ignore. The collar brushes against your neck. The seams press faintly into your skin. The weight of the cloth rests unevenly across your body. You shift your leg slightly, trying to find a position where the fabric doesn't pull. It works, briefly. Then the discomfort finds another place. A fold, a seam, a tight spot. You exhale slowly, not in frustration, just acknowledgement. Because this isn't something you can fix, only something you can adjust to. You pull your covering a little tighter again, the rough outer layer pressing over your clothing now. It adds warmth, but also weight. You feel it settle over you, not softly, but firmly. You take another breath, slower this time, trying to relax beneath it all, beneath the straw, beneath the cloth, beneath the cold. And for a moment, you almost succeed. Your body stills, your breathing evens out, your awareness begins to soften. But then, a small shift. The fabric at your side tightens again. You move slightly to release it, and in doing so, you disturb everything else. The straw shifts, the covering moves, the position changes. You settle again, carefully, like you're trying not to wake something. But what you're really trying not to wake is discomfort. Historians still argue whether people in the Middle Ages experienced deeper sleep cycles despite these conditions, or if frequent disturbances prevented truly restorative rest. You don't need a study to feel the answer, because this doesn't feel deep. It feels light, fragile, like something that can break at any moment. You take another slow breath, then another. Your body begins to quiet again, not because everything is perfect, but because you're too tired to keep adjusting. And slowly, very slowly, you drift closer to sleep, carrying everything with you. The day, the work, the clothing, the discomfort, all of it. Because here, you don't leave anything behind, not even when you rest. You begin to drift, not fully asleep, but somewhere close, that quiet space where your thoughts slow down, your body softens just enough, and the discomfort fades into the background. And then, you notice it. Not a sound, not a movement. The air. You take a slightly deeper breath than before, and this time it feels different. Heavier, thicker. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval homes often relied on open hearth fires for heat and cooking, usually without proper chimneys. Smoke would fill the room and slowly escape through small openings, leaving the air inside constantly hazy. You can feel that now, because the moment you focus on your breathing, it changes, not dramatically, just enough. Each inhale carries a faint trace of something burnt wood, ash, something dry and lingering. It's not strong, not overwhelming, but it's there, always there. You shift slightly, your chest rising again as you take another breath, and again that same weight. The air doesn't feel clean, it feels used. A quirky historical tidbit is that in some medieval houses, people actually preferred a bit of lingering smoke because it helped repel insects and preserve wooden structures from decay. You pause on that thought for a moment, because while it might serve a purpose, it doesn't make breathing easier. You turn your head slightly, trying to find a position where the air feels lighter. It doesn't change much, because the air is the same everywhere. You take another slow breath, this time more controlled. In, out, in, out. Each inhale reminds you of the fire that burned earlier, the warmth it gave, and the residue it left behind. Historians still argue whether prolonged exposure to indoor smoke significantly affected medieval health, or if people adapted to it over time due to constant exposure. You can feel that question in your lungs now, because even if your body adjusts, it doesn't feel natural. You swallow lightly, your throat slightly dry, not painful, just aware. You shift your position again, turning slightly onto your side, hoping it might ease the feeling. It helps. A little. Or maybe you just stop noticing it as much. You close your eyes again, your body trying once more to settle. But now there's something else. A faint irritation, subtle, barely there. But enough to keep your awareness just a little too active. You take another breath, and this time you notice something else. The warmth. Not comforting warmth, but trapped warmth. The kind that lingers in enclosed spaces, mixing with the air, holding everything in place. You feel it around you now, the combination of body heat, fire residue, and still air. It doesn't circulate, it stays. You shift your arms slightly, the movement stirring the air just enough to feel a small difference. For a second, then it settles again. You realize something quietly. This space doesn't breathe. It holds everything. The smoke, the warmth, the scent of the day. All of it remains here, even as you try to rest. You take another slow breath, your body adjusting once more, because that's what it keeps doing. Adjusting, adapting, accepting. You close your eyes again, trying to let the rhythm of your breathing carry you back towards sleep. In, out, in, out, in, out. And slowly, it almost works. Your body softens again. Your thoughts fade. The heaviness in the air becomes less noticeable, not because it's gone, but because you're too tired to keep focusing on it. And that's when you understand something deeper. Rest here isn't about perfect conditions. It's about exhaustion winning over discomfort. You take one more slow breath, the air settling into you once again. And as you drift just a little closer to sleep, you carry that heaviness with you. Because even the air you breathe doesn't fully let you rest. You're almost asleep. Not deeply. Not peacefully, but close enough that your body begins to let go. Just a little. Your breathing slows. Your muscles soften. The weight of the day finally starts to settle. And then, something tiny interrupts it. At first, it's nothing more than a faint sensation, a slight touch. So small you're not even sure it's real. You stay still, hoping it fades. But then it happens again. A light movement against your skin. You shift slightly, your body reacting instinctively. The straw beneath you rustles softly as you adjust your position. The sensation disappears. For a moment, then returns. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval sleeping environments were often shared with pests such as fleas, lice, and bedbugs, largely due to the materials used in bedding and the lack of regular cleaning. You don't need to see them to understand that, because you can feel it, not clearly, not constantly, but enough. A small irritation here, a faint movement there. You shift again, brushing lightly against your arm. Nothing, but that doesn't mean it's gone. A quirky historical tidbit is that people in medieval times sometimes used herbs like lavender or mint in bedding to repel insects, though the effectiveness of these methods was limited. You glance faintly toward the bedding, even in the dim light, as if you might spot something. But there's nothing obvious, just straw, just shadows. You lie back again, trying to ignore it, because what else can you do? You pull your arm closer, adjusting your position once more. For a few seconds, everything is still. Then, another faint sensation. This time near your leg. You shift again, a little more quickly now. The straw moves. The covering shifts. Your body settles into a new position. And again, the sensation fades. Historians still argue whether pest infestations were a constant experience for most medieval people, or if conditions varied widely depending on location and season. But right now, it doesn't feel like a rare occurrence. It feels like part of the environment. You take a slow breath, trying to calm your mind. Because reacting to every small sensation won't help. You close your eyes again, focusing on stillness, letting your body settle, letting your thoughts slow. And for a moment, it works. Your awareness fades slightly. The irritation becomes less noticeable. Your breathing deepens again, and just as you begin to drift, another faint movement. You don't react immediately this time. You hesitate, hoping your body will ignore it, but it lingers just enough to bring your awareness back. You shift again, slowly, carefully, trying not to disturb everything, because every movement resets your attempt at rest. You realize something quietly. Sleep here isn't just about finding comfort, it's about managing interruption. Small, constant, unpredictable. You settle again, your body slightly more tense now, not fully relaxed. Just waiting. Waiting for the next sensation, or hoping there won't be one. You take another slow breath. In, out, and gradually the stillness returns. Your body softens again, just enough. Your mind quiets, just slightly. And you drift, not deeply, not fully, but enough to feel the edge of sleep once more. And as you do, that faint awareness remains. That something might interrupt you again. At any moment, you don't wake up all at once. It happens slowly, like something pulling you gently back to the surface. Not a full awakening, just enough awareness to realize you're not fully asleep anymore. At first, you don't know why. Your eyes stay closed. Your body remains still, but something feels different. Then you hear it. A faint sound, soft, close. A mainstream historical fact is that in medieval households, animals such as chickens, dogs, or even livestock were often kept very close to living and sleeping areas, sometimes inside the same structure during colder months. You recognize it now. The sound isn't random, it's movement. A light shuffle, a quiet scratch. You stay still, listening, trying to place it. Then another sound follows, a low rustle, closer this time. You open your eyes slightly, the dim light barely revealing shapes in the room. Shadows shift gently against the walls, the faint outline of objects barely visible. Nothing clear, but something is there. A quirky historical tidbit is that keeping animals indoors wasn't just convenience, it helped provide warmth and protection. Even if it came at the cost of comfort and cleanliness, you can feel that trade-off now. Because whatever is moving nearby isn't distant, it's part of this space. You shift slightly, just enough to test the reaction. The sound pauses, then resumes. Slow, unbothered, as if your presence doesn't change anything. You exhale quietly, your body adjusting again, trying to return to stillness. But the silence is gone now, replaced by small, irregular sounds, a step, a scratch, a faint shift of something against the ground. Historians still argue whether medieval people became fully accustomed to sharing their living spaces with animals, or if it remained a constant background disturbance. You can feel both possibilities, because while the sound isn't loud, it's enough to keep you aware. You turn your head slightly, your eyes trying to adjust to the darkness. There's movement again, just at the edge of your vision. You don't focus on it. You don't need to, because you already understand. You close your eyes again, trying to settle back into sleep. Your body relaxes slightly. Your breathing slows, and for a moment it almost works. Then, another sound, closer. You feel your awareness rise again, your mind pulling you back from that edge of sleep. Not fully awake, but not resting either. You shift your position slightly, the straw beneath you rustling again. The movement nearby pauses, then continues. Unchanged, you realize something quietly. You're not alone here, not in the way you might expect. This space is shared, not just with people, but with everything else that belongs here. You take another slow breath, your body trying once more to settle. In, out. The sounds continue. Not constant, but frequent enough. A reminder that rest here is never completely quiet. You pull your covering slightly closer, more out of instinct than necessity. It doesn't block the sound. Nothing does. You close your eyes again, letting your body sink back into the straw, into the weight of the moment. And slowly, gradually, you begin to drift again. Not deeply, not securely, but just enough, with the faint sounds still around you. Still part of the night, still part of your rest. You don't wake this time, not fully. But something shifts. A faint chill brushes across your face, subtle at first, almost easy to ignore. You pull your covering slightly closer without opening your eyes, your body reacting instinctively, trying to hold on to whatever warmth you have. For a moment it works. Then the cold returns. A mainstream historical fact is that most medieval houses had little to no insulation. Gaps in wooden walls, thatched roofs, and simple construction methods allowed outside air to pass through freely, especially during the night. You can feel that now, because the cold doesn't stay in one place. It moves, slowly, quietly. You turn slightly onto your side, curling your body just a little tighter, trying to reduce the exposed surface. It helps, for a moment. Then another faint draft slips through, not strong, just enough. A quirky historical tidbit is that some medieval households use hanging cloths or tapestries on walls to reduce drafts and keep warmth inside. But these were limited and not always effective. You glance briefly toward the wall, even in the darkness, imagining those small gaps you can't see but can definitely feel. The air finds its way through them easily. You take a slow breath, and this time it feels cooler than before, not freezing, but enough to keep your body from fully relaxing. You pull your arms closer to your chest, your legs slightly bent, forming a tighter shape. A natural response to conserve warmth. Historians still argue whether medieval people adapted to colder sleeping conditions over time, or if they simply endured constant low-level discomfort throughout the night. You can feel that question in your body, because adaptation doesn't mean comfort. It just means you stop expecting it. You shift again, the straw beneath you rustling softly. Your covering moves slightly, letting in a brief touch of colder air before settling again. You exhale slowly. Your breath feels warmer against your skin than the air around you. You close your eyes again, trying to drift back, trying to ignore the small, creeping cold that never fully leaves. And for a moment, your body softens again. Your breathing slows. Your awareness fades slightly, but then another faint draft. This time along your neck. You flinch slightly, your shoulders tightening for just a second before relaxing again. It's not strong enough to wake you completely, but it's enough to interrupt. You pull the covering higher, adjusting it carefully, trying to block that space. It helps, temporarily, but the cold doesn't stop. It finds another way, another gap, another opening. You realize something quietly. This isn't a single source. It's everywhere. The walls, the roof, the small spaces in between. You are inside, but not fully protected from outside. You take another slow breath, your body settling again despite the discomfort. Because what else can you do? You can't seal the walls. You can't stop the air. You can only adjust yourself. Again. And again. Until the effort itself becomes tiring, and eventually you stop reacting. Not because the cold is gone, but because your body chooses stillness over constant adjustment. You lie there curled slightly, your breathing steady once more. The cold still touches you, still moves around you, but you let it because resisting it only keeps you awake, and slowly, gradually, you drift again, not into warmth, but into acceptance, where even the cold becomes part of your rest. You don't realize how close everyone is until you try to forget about it. At first, it's just a feeling, a sense that the space around you isn't entirely yours, that the air you breathe is shared. You shift slightly, the straw rustling beneath you, and somewhere nearby, something responds. Not loudly, just a small movement, a quiet adjustment. A mainstream historical fact is that many medieval households, especially among peasants, were single-room dwellings where entire families and sometimes additional members slept in the same shared space. You understand that now, because as you lie there trying to rest, you begin to notice the presence of others more clearly. A soft breath nearby. Not yours, slightly uneven. Then another, further away. You stay still, your eyes closed, but your awareness expands. The room isn't empty. It's full, not crowded in a chaotic way, but close, connected. You shift your arms slightly, careful this time, more aware of your surroundings. The movement is small, but even that feels noticeable. A quirky historical tidbit is that in some medieval households, it was common for multiple people to share the same bed or sleeping area, sometimes even unrelated individuals due to limited space. You don't need to imagine that. You can feel it. The space between you and others is not defined by walls, just by inches. You turn slightly onto your side again, your body adjusting, trying to find a position that feels separate. But there is no real separation, only proximity. Historians still argue whether this closeness created stronger communal bonds, or if it led to a lack of personal comfort and privacy that modern people would find difficult to tolerate. You can feel both possibilities, because while there's a sense of shared presence, there's also no escape from it. You take a slow breath, your chest rising gently, and you become aware of the rhythm around you. Different breaths, different patterns, some slow, some uneven, some deeper than yours. It creates a quiet, layered sound. Not loud, but constant. You try to tune it out, to focus on your own breathing instead. In, out, in, out. In, out, but every now and then a shift, a turn, a faint movement reminds you again, you're not alone. You pull your covering slightly closer, more out of instinct than necessity. It doesn't create space, but it creates a small boundary, even if only in your mind. You close your eyes tighter, trying to settle into that idea that this small space is yours, even if it isn't. You adjust your legs slightly, careful not to move too much, because every movement here feels shared. You notice something else now. Warmth, not from the room, but from others. A faint presence of it in the air, subtle, but real. It contrasts with the cold drafts you felt earlier. A different kind of discomfort, not harsh, but noticeable. You realize something quietly. Even the temperature here is influenced by everyone. You take another slow breath, your body trying once more to relax. Because resisting this closeness doesn't help. It only keeps you aware, and awareness keeps you awake. So you let it fade, not completely, but enough. You allow the sounds to blend together. The breathing, the small movements, the shared space, all becoming background. Your body softens again. Your breathing slows, and slowly, gradually, you begin to drift. Not into solitude, but into a shared stillness, where even privacy is something you learn to live without. You don't fall asleep all at once. You drift, in and out, lightly, like your body never fully commits to rest, and somewhere in that quiet in-between, a thought settles in. We're not completely safe here, not in the way you might expect. It's not a loud fear, not something that makes you sit up or look around. It's quieter than that, more subtle. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval homes, especially in rural or less protected areas, were often vulnerable to theft, intrusion, or even wandering animals, particularly at night when visibility was low. You feel that now, not as panic, but as awareness, the kind that stays just beneath the surface. You lie still, your eyes closed, your breathing steady, but your senses don't fully shut down. They stay slightly alert, listening, not actively, but enough. A faint sound outside, you notice it. You don't react, but you hear it. A shift of wind against the structure, or maybe something brushing past it. You're not sure. A quirky historical tidbit is that doors and locks in many medieval homes were simple and not always secure by modern standards, often relying more on location and community trust than strong physical barriers. You imagine that door now, somewhere behind you, closed, but not sealed, not reinforced, just there. You take a slow breath, your chest rising gently, trying to relax again, trying to let that awareness fade. Historians still argue whether people in the Middle Ages lived with a constant sense of low-level insecurity, or if their familiarity with their environment reduced fear over time. You can feel both possibilities, because while nothing is happening, your body still prepares for it, just in case. You shift slightly, adjusting your arm beneath you. The straw rustles softly, and for a moment, everything feels louder. Then it settles again. You close your eyes more firmly, trying to drift back into that soft edge of sleep. And slowly, it begins. Your breathing deepens. Your thoughts fade, your body softens, but not completely, because part of you remains awake, not fully, but enough to notice another faint sound, this time further away, or maybe closer. It's hard to tell in the dark. You don't move, you don't react, you simply listen. Then silence returns. You exhale slowly, letting the moment pass, letting your body sink again into the straw, into the weight of the covering, into the shared air around you. You remind yourself, without words, that this is normal, that the night always carries small sounds, small movements, small uncertainties. You take another breath. In, out, and slowly your awareness softens again. Not gone, but quieter, like it's stepping back just enough to let you rest. You drift again, lightly, carefully, as if your body is resting, but your senses remain on watch. And in that fragile balance, you begin to understand something clearly. Sleep here is never complete. It's layered, part rest, part awareness, part quiet vigilance. You don't fully let go, because here you can't afford to. And as you drift once more towards sleep, your body relaxing just enough, your mind quieting just slightly, that small awareness remains, a soft reminder that even in rest, you are still alert. You don't realize when sleep breaks. There's no clear moment, no sudden awakening, just a quiet shift where rest slowly fades into awareness again. Your eyes remain closed, your body stays still, but something feels different, lighter, like the weight of sleep has lifted just enough for you to notice. A mainstream historical fact is that many people in the Middle Ages practiced what historians call segmented sleep, a pattern where the night was naturally divided into two separate sleeping periods, often interrupted by a period of wakefulness in between. You feel that now, because this doesn't feel like waking up fully. It feels like a pause. Your breathing changes slightly, not deeper, just more conscious. You notice the air again, the space, the faint sounds around you. You open your eyes slowly. The darkness hasn't changed much, but your awareness has. You're no longer drifting. You're present. A quirky historical tidbit is that during these midnight waking periods, some medieval people would quietly talk, pray, or even do small tasks before returning to sleep. You don't feel like doing anything. You simply exist in the moment, lying there, still, listening. The room is quiet, but not silent. It never truly is. A faint breath nearby, a small shift somewhere in the space, the distant sound of something outside. You notice it all now, clearly, without the haze of sleep. Historians still argue whether segmented sleep was a natural human pattern that disappeared with modern lifestyles, or if it was primarily shaped by environmental conditions like darkness and lack of artificial light. You can understand both, because here there's nothing pushing you back to sleep immediately. No light, no distraction, just time. You lie there, your body resting, but your mind gently awake, not racing, not thinking too deeply, just aware. You shift your arms slightly, adjusting your position. The straw rustles beneath you. The sound feels louder now in the quiet. Then it fades again. You take a slow breath. In, out. And for a moment, you simply listen to it. The rhythm of your own breathing. The faint patterns around you. The stillness of the night. It's not uncomfortable, not entirely, but it's not restful either. It's something in between. A quiet pause in the night. You close your eyes again, not to force sleep, just to rest them. Your body remains still, your breathing steady, and slowly you begin to feel that soft pull again, the gentle return towards sleep. Not immediate, not guaranteed, but possible. You don't rush it. There's no reason to. Time moves differently here, slower, less defined. You take another breath. Your body softens slightly. The awareness begins to fade again. The sounds become distant, the sensations dull, and gradually you drift back, not deeply, but enough, into that same fragile rest, where sleep comes in pieces, and the night is never truly one continuous dream. You drift again, softly, lightly, as if sleep is something you pass through, not something you fully enter. Your body settles, your breathing slows, and for a moment, everything feels almost calm, almost. Then something shifts, not outside, not around you. Inside, a small discomfort, faint at first, easy to ignore. You stay still, hoping it fades, but it lingers. A mainstream historical fact is that poor sleeping conditions such as hard surfaces, pests, cold drafts, and inadequate bedding often prevented deep, uninterrupted sleep in medieval life. You feel that now, because your body never fully lets go. There's always something, a pressure point, a tightness, a subtle irritation. You shift slightly, adjusting your position. The straw moves beneath you, the sensation changes, but doesn't disappear. A quirky historical tidbit is that some medieval remedies for sleep discomfort included herbal mixtures or simple rituals, though their effectiveness was often uncertain and varied widely. You imagine that for a moment, some small attempt to improve this, to ease the discomfort. But here, right now, you have nothing like that, only your body. And its limits. Historians still argue whether people in the Middle Ages experienced deeper resilience to discomfort, or if their sleep was consistently fragmented and less restorative than modern standards. You can feel the answer forming in your muscles, because this doesn't feel like rest, it feels like endurance. You take a slow breath, your chest rising gently. Your body tries again to settle, to relax, but every time it gets close, something interrupts. A shift in pressure, a slight itch, a tight fold of fabric, nothing major, but enough. You turn slightly onto your other side, your movement slower now, more careful. The straw adjusts again. The covering shifts. Your body finds a new position. You wait, hoping this one holds longer, and for a moment, it does. Your breathing evens out, your muscles loosen, your awareness fades. But then, the small discomfort returns. Different place. Same effect. You exhale softly, not frustrated, just aware, because by now you understand. There is no perfect position, only temporary relief. You close your eyes tighter, letting your body rest as much as it can. Not perfectly, but enough. You focus on your breathing again. In, out, and slowly the sensations begin to blur. Not gone, just less sharp. Your body chooses stillness over adjustment, because constant movement only keeps you awake, and eventually you drift again, not because everything feels right, but because you're too tired to keep fixing what can't be fixed. And in that moment, you understand something clearly. Sleep here isn't about comfort, it's about surrender. Letting go of the idea that it will ever feel perfect, accepting that discomfort is part of rest. And as your body softens once more, your breathing steady, your awareness fading just slightly, you drift again, carrying that quiet understanding with you. For even in sleep, your body never fully forgets the discomfort it's resting on. You don't notice the exact moment the night begins to fade. There's no clear line between darkness and morning, just a slow, almost invisible shift. The air feels different first, softer, not warmer exactly, just less heavy. You take a slow breath, your body still lying in that same position, still wrapped in the same rough layers, still resting on the same uneven surface. And yet, something has changed. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval people often woke with the natural light of dawn, as artificial lighting was limited and daily routines were closely tied to the rising sun. You feel that now, even with your eyes closed. There's a faint brightness pressing gently through the darkness behind your eyelids, not enough to see clearly, but enough to disturb the night. You shift slightly, your body's slower now, heavier, not because you're fully rested, but because you're not. A quirky historical tidbit is that roosters were commonly used as natural alarm clocks in medieval communities, their crowing signaling the beginning of a new day. And right on time, you hear it. Faint at first, then clearer. A distant call, sharp, unmistakable. It cuts through the quiet of the morning, not loud enough to startle you, but enough to pull you closer to wakefulness. You open your eyes slowly. The room is still dim, but not dark anymore. Shapes begin to form, edges become clearer. The outline of the space around you returns. Historians still argue whether medieval people felt more aligned with natural rhythms due to this lifestyle, or if the lack of control over sleep and waking times contributed to chronic fatigue. You can feel the weight of that question in your body, because as awareness returns, so does everything else. The stiffness, the discomfort, the fatigue that never fully left. You move your arms slightly. It feels heavier than it should. You stretch just a little. Your muscles respond slowly, tight from hours of imperfect rest. The straw beneath you shifts again, the same familiar rustling sound greeting your movement. Nothing has changed. The bed is the same. The air is the same. You are the same, just more aware now. You sit up slightly, your body protesting just enough to remind you how little it truly recovered. Your shoulders feel tight, your back slightly sore, not sharp pain, just a dull, lingering stiffness. You take a breath, deeper this time. The air feels clearer than it did during the night, but not fresh, just less confined. You glance around, the room slowly revealing itself in the early light. Everything looks exactly as it did before, simple, rough, unchanged. You realize something quietly. The night didn't restore you, it only paused the day. You shift your legs, bringing them closer, preparing to stand. But you hesitate for a moment, not because you don't want to move, but because you know what comes next. The same routine, the same work, the same cycle. You take another slow breath. In, out. And for a brief moment, you remain still, sitting there, between night and day, between rest and effort, between what was and what begins again. Then, slowly, you move, because here there's no waiting. The day starts whether you're ready or not, and as you begin to rise, your body adjusting, your awareness fully returned, you understand something clearly. Sleep didn't make things easier, it only made them possible. You step lightly, almost instinctively, careful not to jolt your body after that uneven night of rest. The floor beneath your feet is hard, cold, and slightly rough. Every step reminds you of the straw bed, the lingering aches in your muscles, and the shared air that never quite let you rest fully. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval floors in peasant homes were often simple, packed earth, sometimes covered with rushes or straw, which offered minimal insulation from cold and damp. You feel that now. Every contact with the ground, a small reminder of the night's lingering discomfort. You pause for a moment, taking in the dim light filtering through the small window. You realize how tightly the room held its warmth, or rather, how little warmth it held at all. You wrap your warm blanket closer around yourself, instinctively. A quirky historical tidbit is that people often slept fully clothed in layers, sometimes even wearing hats, to preserve body heat during harsh nights. You move toward the corner where simple tools and daily items rest. Everything has a place, even if order is loose. You notice a small wooden bowl, some cloth, and a few coins remnants of the medieval life surrounding you. Historians still argue whether the austere, minimalistic arrangement of these homes was primarily out of necessity or cultural habit. But here, it all feels purposeful. As you gather your thoughts, your body still fatigued, you remember the small moments from the night, the faint breaths around you, the rustling of straw, and the soft whisper of the wind through gaps in the walls. They were constant companions, unnoticed until awareness returned. You take a slow breath, adjusting your shoulders, feeling the stiffness, but also a subtle sense of endurance. Your body has adapted, not fully restored, but ready enough for the day's labor. You glance at the small belongings scattered in the room, each one a testament to survival coins for trade, tools for work, cloth for warmth. The experience of sleeping here, you realize, isn't about comfort. It's about resilience. Every night, every faint sound, every imperfect rest builds it. You move toward the door, understanding the subtle rhythms of medieval life, the harsh realities endured quietly. Sleep and wakefulness are intertwined with survival. And in this moment, as your eyes adjust further to the morning light, you grasp a quiet truth. The medieval night teaches patience, endurance, and a subtle, almost invisible appreciation for the simplest comforts, warmth, breath, space, and the faint sense of another human nearby. You step outside, and the air hits you differently now. Not the still, enclosed weight of the night, but a cooler, fresher presence that carries faint smells of earth, smoke, and the distant warmth of the village hearths. You realize how confined the night felt in comparison. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval houses were often small, single-room structures where the fire provided the only source of warmth, smoke ventilation was minimal, and air circulation was poor. The scent of smoke, combined with damp straw, unwashed fabrics, and shared spaces, made mornings surprisingly pungent. You notice that now. You move slowly, your feet adjusting to the uneven ground outside. The sun hasn't fully risen yet, but the soft light begins to cast long shadows across the cobblestones and packed dirt pathways. A quirky historical tidbit is that in some towns, the streets were narrow and crowded, often littered with refuse, contributing to the notorious medieval stench. You pause to take it all in: the sounds of early labor, a cart rumbling in the distance, a faint clatter from the smithy. Even the smells seem layered, telling their own story of survival, routine, and human presence. Historians still argue whether urban sanitation in medieval times was catastrophically poor or merely relative to the limited technology and societal priorities of the period. Either way, you can feel the reality pressing in now. Your hands brush against the wooden railings or walls, reminding you of the texture of the buildings, worn by time, rain, and countless people passing. The roughness of the surfaces, combined with the lingering odors, makes you appreciate the simplicity of your own night's rest, however interrupted it was. You inhale again. The mixture of smoke, animals, and unwashed humanity rises from the village. It's unpleasant, yes, but strangely grounding. You are awake, aware, and fully part of this world that many only imagine in sanitized history books. You remember the noises from the night, the shifting straw, the faint breaths, and how they prepared you for this. The segmented sleep, the interrupted rest, the subtle discomfort, all of it trained your senses to stay alert. You realize that medieval sleep wasn't just rest. It was a survival tool, a nightly rehearsal in resilience. As you move further into the morning, every step echoes a truth you felt in your bones the night before. Comfort is fleeting, awareness is constant, and endurance is a skill honed daily. You carry that quiet understanding as the village comes alive, the smells intensify, and the sunlight begins to warm the rough surfaces you tread upon. Even now, fully awake, you carry the memory of the night, the imperfect sleep, and the lingering sensations that shaped it. Lessons of patience, endurance, and human adaptation that modern comfort often obscures. You continue walking through the village, the air filling your lungs with scents that are both familiar and sharp: the smell of wood smoke, damp straw, unwashed animals, and the faint tang of human labor. Each breath reminds you of the imperfect, intertwined lives that make up this medieval reality. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval urban and rural spaces were rarely separated from daily filth. Streets doubled as dumping grounds, waste was often left exposed, and personal hygiene was minimal by modern standards. You feel that all around you now, in every sound and every smell. You notice a peasant child chasing a chicken, barefoot and laughing, their small feet kicking up dust that mingles with the lingering odors. A quirky historical tidbit is that children were often expected to participate in household chores and farm work from a very young age, sometimes immediately after rising from their straw beds. Their laughter is innocent, but